The sex assault trial of 5 former Canadian World Junior hockey players starts in a London, Ontario courtroom today. Michael McLeod, Carter Hart, Alex Formanton, Cal Foote, and Dylan Dubé have been charged with sexual assault that allegedly took place June 2018. The complainant, whose identity is protected under court order, alleges she was sexually assaulted in a London hotel following a gala. All 5 accused have pleaded not guilty. For more on what we can expect on day one, we are joined by TSN's senior correspondent, Rick Westhead. Rick, good morning to you. This has been a long time coming. What will happen today?
Yeah, good morning. Well, today is again the start of the trial, and we're going to see jury selection begin shortly after court begins at 10 o'clock. So this is a process where members of the jury pool will come into the court one by one, and the judge will ask them a question, which basically will amount to whether they have formed an opinion, whether they followed the media coverage of this trial, and they formed an opinion that they can't be shaken of, and if that's true, if they believe they can be objective, then they'll be selected to the jury pool. We're looking for 12 jurors, and that process could take the next day or two.
Will we see an appearance of the 5 accused in person, and will the complainant need to be there?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Well, the co-defendants are going to be here every day, and the complainant actually won't. I would expect that she will only be in the court during her testimony, and like you mentioned off the top, we only know her by the initials EM because her identity is protected under a publication ban.
So then, Rick, once jury selection happens, what happens next in this trial?
Well, after jury selection's done, we'll have an opening statement from the Crown Attorney, and in that opening statement, she will lay out the Crown's case against these 5 co-accused. After that, we'll actually begin testimony, and I believe that we'll actually hear some testimony not just from people who are charged in the case as defendants and the complainant, but potentially other hockey players as well.
It's interesting to note that they will all be there in person. You know, this happened years ago, 7 years ago in London. They have all since gone on to live in other cities, play hockey in other cities, and in some cases professionally in other countries. Now they are back in London. You've been following this case very closely for years now, Rick, written a lot about it. What are some of the biggest questions that you still have?
Well, one of the questions I have is whether or not these players are going to testify. They don't have to make that decision until after they hear the Crown's case against them, and at that point they'll decide with their legal teams whether they think that the Crown's put up a convincing and compelling case, and if they actually have to answer it, or if they feel comfortable, not doing that. And there's going to be a lot of body language reading. I would imagine the legal teams are going to be really trying to read the faces of the members of the jurors and see kind of what the reactions are to different testimony along the way. I'm also interested in hearing, in her own words, EM's account of what happened in June 2018. We've seen a lot of allegations in documents, but it's different when you actually hear somebody talk about this in person and hear, the emotion in their voice and see how they react on the stand as well.
Rick, sometimes it's hard to distinguish the difference between a civil case and a criminal case. We did learn information in a civil case. This is a criminal case. What changes here? What do prosecutors need to prove?
Yeah, good question. And the civil case, we reported on this first back in 2022 when we found out that EM had sued Hockey Canada and 8 John Doe hockey players for $3.5 million, and then settled that civil lawsuit pretty quickly. It's different in a criminal case. You have to prove your allegations against a defendant beyond a reasonable doubt. And in this case, with a trial by jury, that means that every one of the 12 members of the jury have to be convinced beyond a reasonable doubt. It's not just good enough to have a majority of jurors. They have to be unanimous. And we'll actually never find out about the deliberations that jurors have in that jury room when they're deciding on a verdict, because under Canada's criminal code, jurors are not allowed to talk publicly about those discussions.
Really quickly, Rick, last question around evidence. There was some debate in the civil case about which evidence could be seen. There was a lot of fighting about what could be seen and what couldn't be shown. Will that repeat itself in a criminal case?
I think so. And during the pretrial hearings that happened, dating back into 2024, there was a lot of arguments. There's a section of Canada's criminal code called 276, and this relates back to a complainant's previous sexual history and access to their medical records or therapy records. So there were those kind of discussions in the pretrial hearings. We don't know exactly what was discussed because media and the public were not allowed in those hearings, and we don't know what the outcomes were. So we're just going to have to follow this case day by day and see what the judges have decided, the pretrial judge, and then the judge is going to oversee the actual trial, what they've decided is going to be permissible.
And you will be following along for us. TSN's Rick Westhead, thanks for setting up the day and the trial for us. If you like that video, make sure to subscribe to the Your Morning YouTube feed, where you can find all kinds of new content posted every weekday morning.